Good morning and welcome to the Crop Trust to continue the discussion on agricultural advantage, the case for climate action in agriculture. We want to thank all the sponsors, there are very many, who have facilitated the series of discussions that have been taking place for the last week here and will be continued today and tomorrow. I particularly want to welcome you all for coming this morning. It's a great pleasure and honor for me to welcome you to a session that says the breeding advantage. And within that session, we want to discuss in particularly tapping into genetic diversity for food security in a 4 degrees world. Now that's kind of a little shocking statement because didn't we all agree 2 degrees world? I want to start saying just a few words, personal words. Earlier this year in May, I was traveling from a research station, Mersoud in Morocco, with a friend and colleague who is also a renowned scientist. We had just visited 100 hectares and saw what was growing, and we're told this all was doing quite well with less than 300 millimeters of rain. As we were driving towards Rabat, I learned that only 10 years ago, that region had predictable rain of about 600 to 700 millimeters a year, rarely an exception. I was both shocked and encouraged. Shocked because 10 years isn't that long, and see your rainfall decline, your heat index rising, and the rainfall become much less reliable is an enormous challenge. Encouraged because we saw fields that, at least on a research station, did very well. So there is hope, and there is an enormous amount of rethinking, because what we have to do now, if we talk about the breeding advantage and tapping into a 4 degree world, then we have to really anticipate what could happen in the next 10 years. There's a lot of information out there, but I think the challenge ahead of us is still to find out how we respond to these challenges in terms of breeding. Can we continue to do incremental breeding as we might have been doing over the last 20, 30 years? Or is there a big systemic shift that is needed? So I'm very happy and pleased and honored to introduce a distinguished panel for our discussion today. Because, of course, we have high expectations that we want to see what they have to suggest to see what we might be doing in the next 10 to 15 years. Our first speaker will be Charlotte Lusty, who works at the Crop Trust and has spent her career in biodiversity and conservation of genetic material. She oversees the CGR gene banks and leads the program that is funded for that purpose. Our second speaker will be Andy Jervis. He spends his life to protect ecosystem services, which is probably going to be one of our greatest challenge as we try to adapt to the 4 degree world. Every drop of water counts. Every bit of soil matters. Our third speaker will be Thomas Meyer, who is a senior advisor at the Ministry of Food, Agriculture and Consumer Protection at the German ministry. And he will tell us a little bit about the international treaty and perhaps a bit about the complex system of intellectual property rights. And finally, the conclusion will get a policy angle by Ali Abu Sabah, who is the Director General of ICARDA and brings to it a long background in development work, project and policy with the African Development Bank, very familiar with the territory where most of us work. Thank you very much, and I won't say more, and I would like to I have forgotten to mention our dear moderator, Mr. Luigi Guarino. He is leading the science team at the Crop Trust, and I think he is a very old hand, and everything genetic. Thank you, Luigi. I'm sorry.